Alright guys, welcome back. I think this will be part 5 or 6, I don't remember. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the pitted rust inside the hopper. So what I'm going to use for that is I'm going to use this acrylic burn umber. It's a little bit thicker than the normal acrylics, like by Vallejo or your craft. And it's a little bit more, it dries a little bit slower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline the pitted, the bare steel towards the top, like the rust spots, like as if it rained and the coal was empty for like, a couple of days or whatever, and it's been sitting in the yard. So I'm going to take my tweezers and a little sponge, whatever kind of sponges you got laying around, or foam, whatever you got. Just break a little piece off, and I put some in the palette already, and I'm kind of going to just dab it on, but I'm going to do it dry, because we're going to do this in layers. And all I'm going to do is just dab it on, just blotch it, some spots, not too heavy. But I'm going to go up towards where the bare metal left off with the rest of the painted part of the hopper. And I'll feather it into the other rust spots that are pitted at the lower, just below it. Just blotching it on lightly with the sponge, not too heavy. It goes a long way. Alright, let's see how that looks. Alright, now I'm going to do the upper part of the hopper. Same thing, a little bit on the sponge, blotch it off. And then we'll just come in and Yeah, if we get some nice weather, I'll do a shoot on a diorama, a video. And you can see what it looks like in the daylight. A little bit in the corners. Next one I'll do, I'll probably do it a different color. I'll go with some burnt sienna. Try that. Yeah, I'm not looking to completely cover the car in rust. The inside. Just want to give it that appearance that, you know, it rained or something and the bare steel gets that light exposure to rust till it gets filled up again. Alright, that'll take care of that part. Now what I did is I made some cut levers. Well, the brackets for the cut lever. I don't know if you can see that. Atlas cars is a little screw on the bottom. And what I use for that is some brass stock. This stuff right here. So it's just a piece of brass that I cut probably like 1.25 inches long. And then I got these jeweler pliers for the end. And then I cup it at the bottom and then just give it a little roll. And that's how I get the opening here to slide the bar in. And what I'll use for that is I'll use some of that the bronze wire, number 25. This stuff from Tichy. Probably get this at your local hobby shop or get it online. The brass you could probably get at a hardware store too. Hardware stores or hobby shops, they both carry that. And both ends have got the bracket on. And then once I get my lever put in, and either I'll glue it to the bottom of the coupler, the gearbox, give it a little bend, and bend it, and then I'll come back and close this up. Maybe a little bit of super glue, just so it doesn't move. But some of the older Atlas box cars, the ones from Austria, have the bracket already there on the bottom. So all you gotta do is just get a number, probably 70 drill bit or 75, and then just drill it straight through, and then put your bracket in. I did it on a couple cars already. Or put your lever in. Alright, now I'm going to take some raw sienna, same stuff. I'm going to take a small brush, and I'm going to have a little bit of water handy. And what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to do the rivets and the lines inside the bottom and the sides of the hopper, where steel meets steel. So I gotta look for my really fine brush. So I'll put some on the brush, just a little bit. It's hard to see. And then I'm gonna come up on the sides and the corners. And I'll put a little bit of water on the brush. And work it in. And I'll go along the bottoms, same thing. This is where the water would lay. I don't know if you can see that. And I'll just do everything in the bottom of the hopper. I use the acrylic in the tube for this because it dries a little bit slower. So I have a little bit more time to work with it. And I'll put some on the side of the brush. And we'll hit that crest. Not too crazy. Just a little bit. So this will be like maybe a couple days after it just dropped the load. And it was sitting in the yard, waiting for the next one. And you could go crazy and just completely rust it all out. Because like in the late 60s, these cars started fading away. The 3-bay and 4-bay hoppers. So I'm doing like the middle 60s, late 60s era, some early 70s. Get it right down in the bottom. That's where all the water would lay. Put a little bit of water on your brush and work it in there if you want. I might try the metal paints from like Vallejo and stuff like that. See how they work. Maybe try some chrome. But this steel color paint looks pretty good. But you got to do either a primer for a base coat, otherwise it won't look good. If you want, you can take a little bit of the burnt umber, put a little bit on, darken up some of these little rivets here. It's starting to look good now. And I'll actually go down inside the hopper part where the door's open and I'll coat that pretty good. However you want to do it. If you get too much on the one side, just take a flat brush and wick it up if it's wet. I'll try and do some pits up top here. Some streaks. some little variations, however you want to do it. But it's starting to look good. Clean my brush. And the brush I'm using for this is the Princeton. It's a number 18. It's probably got like 4 or 5 hairs in it. Working in with some water. Yeah, you don't have to go too crazy, but if you want, go ahead. Make it a rust bucket. Some of them when I first started are rust buckets. And this color looks good. The burnt umber. Because it like reflects the chrome. So it gives it that fresh rust. And keep it different. Because it's going to wear different. A little bit of water, work work it in. I'll get a little bit of the door number. Something a little different. Layers, little color combo. Couple streaks. Yeah, this acrylic in the tube works really good. Like I said, it doesn't dry as quick, so you got some time to work with it. Not as much as enamels or oils, but works good for this. A little bit of water, you can work that right in there. It's looking good. So how does everybody like the video so far? Everybody always tells me, oh, you should do videos. So I tried. I mean, I'm not set up to do the editing and fancy music and all that shit. I used to go live on Facebook years ago. Same thing, just putz around. Do a couple streaks. Alright, I need some more. Right there. If you want to really go crazy, take some of this wood color from Vallejo Model Air, and you really need a super thin brush. And we can even do fresher rust, like as if it's just starting to rust in front of you. See if I could do it. But in these corners here, like coming down the sides there. So let's see if I could put some on there, and then you can get like a, I don't know if you can see that, but just a little bit on the brush, and you can work it over the other color. It'll give it that appearance like it just rained again. Do a little bit here. Alright, let me take some of this. And when it dries, it just gives it that narrow appearance of the fresh rust. So there's a lot you could do with these. A little bit of water, you could work it in. Mix a couple colors. That stuff dries quick. Yeah, you can't really see it, but see it up close, it looks pretty good. Alright, let me do some more streaking down this side. Just like that. I don't know if you can see that part with the fresh rust. Mix it up a little. Then what I'll do is I'll come back with some powders and dust some of the rivets around the edges. And these acrylics are pretty good. That's what I use for the couplers. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but it's starting to look really good. Like I said, the top here, I'll come back with my airbrush and blend that in with that grime wash I did of flat black and raw umber. More black than raw umber, but it's a really good grime color. And it kind of gives it that, you know, coal dust look. Then I'll get the air hoses and the cut levers. Maybe do a little bit of... I started to do a little bit of rust here at the bottom. I think it was this side. No, it was this side. I took some more of this stuff in the tube, and I just went along the bottom and the corner of the panels and around the edges here. And that's probably all I'm going to do for this one, because I usually go too crazy on these. Alright. I'm going to streak it at the rivets. I probably need my longer one. See, just like oils, you can work with this just a little bit. You got a little bit of time. I'll take my brush, put a little water, dampen it off, and just come back and feather it out. So yeah, you could do some nice streak work with acrylics. I'll do a couple more. Same thing, dampen my brush with water, take the excess off and work it down. Just lightly, just like that. I don't know if you can see that. Then we'll do a couple more. Clean my brush off. Make sure you keep your brushes clean too, because it does get hard. Gums up. Just like that. Just a little bit. Then we'll do the side. Come back and do this side. Just like that. Not too bad. So I'll probably do one more video. I'll tweak this up a little more. I'll get the cut levers put on. And oh, while I'm here, I may as well do that. Yeah, I'll take some of the burnt umber, put some on a brush. And I'll just get some in there. Just at the bottom where the two panels meet. That's usually a rust spot. So to recap with this, we used a flat base from Tamiya, do the whole car. I mean, with these Atlas cars, you can take everything apart, take all the grab irons on if you want, make it easier. Or you don't have to do the flat base. You could do the traditional, either oil wash and white, or with the airbrush and fade it down in white. And then come back with some of that, after you clean it up, with the ochre, the dark yellow from Vallejo, or whatever powders you use. And do the whole panel. Or before that even, you could, like I did with the wash, the panel lines. With the dark paint, do that first. Then come back and do your pigments. Seal it. Do your pigment colors, the yellow. And then what I did, because I had the base coat of the brown down, I went over it with the black. And it's actually two different colors. And it looks pretty good. Just like that at the bottom of the car. It's not too visible, but there's still a little bit of color there. So it gives it that dark rust. Like I said, you can do these any way you want. I'm just showing you how I do them. And if you want, you can put a couple pits coming up here. Just like that. because these things get kicked up with a lot of rocks, plus the coal coming down. A couple little pits. Alright, that's it for this episode. And then we got the base coat, which I use Tamiya for the inside of the hopper. Sky Gray X19 for the base coat. Or you could use whatever you want, as long as it's like a gray color. Clean my brush. And then for the inside, I use the gunmetal gray folk art. And then my grime wash for the sides, which is, like I said, flat black and raw umber. More black than raw umber. There's really no mixing ratio, just till you get that like grayish black color, which looks really good. Then you got your acrylics in the tube from Winsor Newton. I got all 4 basic colors for your rust. Burnt sienna, burnt umber, raw umber, and raw sienna. That's your basic 4 colors for rust. Then you can get into technical stuff, you know, Model Air Orange Rust from Vallejo. And then I have another really good one that I love the best. Where is it? It's a wash. I can find it. Oh, here it is. This is a great rust wash from Vallejo. It's very thin. And for this stuff, oh, it looks awesome. I might do it, maybe come back and do a couple streaks of that. Then you got your enamels. Streaking rust, which is pretty good, from MIG Ammo. This is enamels. Then you got a rust wash, which is good, which I did with these. That's this stuff with the sponge technique for the chipped rust, and then just went over the car with that, went over the top of the lid with that. And then inside for the chain, I used a panel liner to highlight the chain, make it pop out, which looks really good. Yeah, these turned out nice. I drew all the bolts, try and keep them even. These are from Keel Line, but these turned out pretty good. Same thing with that. Drill in for the piping for the vents. Line the chain up. And all I did was take a sponge and pit it on there. Some like burnt umber or raw umber, however you want to do the rust. And then just did that wash, the rust wash with Vallejo or AK. And that worked out pretty good. And then my pigments, I mostly used the Dark Earth from Monroe. That's one of my go-tos. And the Grimy Black, I use that quite a bit, which I'm going to do for powders in here the next episode. And another one I go to is Ash Gray, sometimes on the trucks. And most of the other ones I really don't use because they just fade away. Unless you're going to leave it and not spray it and seal it, then you're good. But once you start getting into the light colors like terracotta and this color here, medium earth, which is the same color when you put it on as the dark earth. And I got miscellaneous makeup brushes for doing some of the powders. And then some of my old small brushes like this I'll use for the powders. For like doing a kind of pin wash, whatever you want to call it. Then I got the various makeup sponges and the Q-tips, different kind of applicators. So you could really get detailed into this. I got graphite pencils too for highlighting some of the panels, which work out great. You can buy those in the art supply store. Miscellaneous trays and tubs and palettes for mixing paint. I've got Model Flex from Badger, True Color, and Tamiya. So I got a various miscellaneous selection of paints. And most of my coatings, I'll use the Tamiya TS80, the flat base. It's very expensive, but it really does a nice job. Dull coat is okay, but once you start thinning your paints with alcohol, and you get that fade, the powder look, and you gotta clean it all up and redo it, spray it again. So I try and stay away from testers, unless I got a cheap car I'm just don't care about. And brushes, all sorts of brushes. You know, some of these supply stores have sales. You go in there, 50% off brushes. I'll stock up. And my other go-to is Streaking Grind by AK, and MIG Ammo has it too. And for the airbrush, I use the Badger Patriot, and I still have my Badger 200 from when I was a kid, from back in the late 70s, early 80s. I still have that. But that's the siphon fed. So once you pull the trigger, you get paint. But the Patriot works out pretty good. It's easy to clean, take the needle out. As long as your paints are thinned and mixed really good, you shouldn't have any dry tip or clogging problems with the Patriot. But for thinning paints, either use Windex or just water. Or for Tamiya, I'll use the X28 thinner. And it turns out pretty good. True Color, then you're going to use their thinner. Or acetone, which I buy the acetone straight because it's cheaper that way. But True Color, maybe 1 or 2 drops with a couple drops of paint works out really good. I've done a couple cars already. I had an Atlas Penn Central undecorated. I got that cheap, but it was broken. So I don't know how some people get these train cars and want to play trains, and then they break the shit and you got to fix it. So you got all kind of glues to use just to fix everything. Like this caboose here, I mean, I got this for like, I don't know, $5 at a show. The Northeastern style, but everything's broke on it, you know, even the steps. So eventually this is going to become a CNJ or another Lehigh Valley. I don't know yet. As long as you get these Weaver cars, they're pretty good. As long as these ain't broken off on some of the hoppers, you're good to go. But if you see one of these Weaver cars and this is broke off, forget it. Especially on the hopper. Unless you got some magic touch or really good glue to glue it back on. Then I got this project in the making. I already did one. And it's on the layout. But I'm going to detail this up. I'm going to put like a back step back here. I blocked out some of the windows on the other one. But you can pick these up cheap at a show. Yeah, I got plenty of projects going on. Just not enough time. And I've been dabbling with some HO. So I got some HO cars to work on. A couple engines. But yeah, I just picked up a couple Atlas flats, so I got to detail those yet. There's a lot to do in this hobby. It never ends. Once you get into it and you start doing detail and you want your stuff to look good. Or if you just want to run trains, then have at it. But as you get older and you get experience, you start getting into detail. Trying to get it as real as you can. 2-rail, 3-rail, doesn't matter. I run them both on the layout. As long as it's MTH. Just throw the switch at the bottom and you're good to go. If your track works good, shouldn't have any problem. Put some weights in the cars. Put your scale couplers on. Throw away the old shit. The claw. So that's what this is right here. Scale wheel -8. I just got to put couplers on it. It's ready to go. But yeah, that's when you get into having fun detailing. Sanding sticks and then the jeweler's files. But, alright, man. Leave comments if you want, or if you don't, whatever. So, I'll catch you on the next one. Later, guys.